Who was James Nikki Rowe? Nikki Rowe was born in McAllen on February 8, 1938. Rowe was student body president, voted class favorite, and was an athlete at McAllen High School, graduating in 1956. He is pictured here with teammate Ted Eulander. Eulander went on to become a Major League Baseball player. The Mackay baseball field is named after Ted Eulander. Fun fact: Nikki Rowe attended the Mackay prom with the mother of our office clerk, Vilma Monschaff. Rowe graduated from West Point in 1960 and was sent to Vietnam in 1963, where he served as a Special Forces officer, a Green Beret. Rowe studied Vietnamese, Mandarin, Chinese, and French before his deployment to Vietnam. On October 29, 1963, First Lieutenant Nick Rowe and two others were captured. For 62 months, Rowe battled dysentery, disease, psychological and physical torment. Each day, he faced the undermining realization that he might be executed, or worse, never released. Rowe made several escape attempts, one with another injured POW. They were being pursued by the Viet Cong, where the other POW faced the realization that he could not go on, and that he was slowing Rowe down and increasing the chance of both men being captured again. He urged Rowe to go on without him. Rowe began doing so until he heard the Viet Cong captured his friend. They began yelling that unless he surrendered to them, they would kill his friend. Rowe could have escaped, but surrendered to save his friend. After 5 years as a POW, on December 21, 1968, Rowe took advantage of a sudden flight of American helicopters. He struck down his guards, ran into a clearing where the helicopters noticed him and rescued him. The Americans thought, at first, that Rowe was the enemy and were planning to capture him until they realized that he was one of our own. Nick Rowe was only one of 34 Americans who escaped captivity during the Vietnam War. Nick Rowe is free. Among his surprises when he returned to civilization was that he was promoted to major during his 5 years of captivity. In 1969, McAllen gave Major James Nicky Rowe a hero's welcome. McAllen held a parade for Nicky Rowe. Everyone was elated. All of McAllen came out to welcome Rowe home. Rowe's parents visiting with their son, whom they had feared might be dead. Rowe's older brother died while at West Point. Nick Rowe was their only surviving son. In 1971, Rowe published 5 Years to Freedom, in which he re-encountered his ordeal as a Viet Cong prisoner, his eventual escape, and his return home. We have a class set of Rowe's books in our library. In 1974, Rowe made the decision to leave the service. He continued to write, co-authoring The Washington Connection, and in 1977, his first novel, The Judas Squad, was published. The United States Army Special Forces School at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, recognized the need for creating the SERI program. Nick Rowe was their first choice. He returned to the Army and Special Forces as a lieutenant colonel in 1981, where he developed the SERI program, Survival, Invasion, Resistance, Escape, a course based upon Rowe's experience as a POW. This program is taught today and is now a requirement for graduates from the U.S. Special Forces qualification course. 10% of enlisted armed forces try out for Special Forces. 1% makes it.
Indecision is one of the major problems that you'll face as a prisoner of war. The enemy is going to force you to make decisions, and it's up to you to decide what is right and what is wrong, and you have to know the difference.
I was fortunate enough to be in Fort Bragg during my first years of enlistment in the early 2002-2003. And I was fortunate enough to go through an obstacle course, one of the hardest ever, called Nasty Nick, named after Colonel James Rowe. I did not know this at the time, believe it or not, and it's not until I saw the placard named after Colonel James Rowe, and that's when it hit, hey, I went to Nikki Rowe High School. Hey, this guy's actually pretty interesting. And I did a little bit of research on him. Like I said, he was a Green Beret Special Forces. It's not a typical run-of-the-mill soldier, if you want to call it that. He wasn't a soldier. When I walked into the office or passed the library, and actually recognized all his sacrifices and all the everything that he's done.
In 1987, Rowe was assigned to the Philippines, where he was given the mission of Chief of the Army Division of the Joint U.S. Military Advisory Group, providing counterinsurgery training for the Philippine military. By February 1989, Colonel Rowe wrote Washington, warning that a high-profile figure was about to be hit, and that he himself was number 2 or 3 on the terror list. Rowe sent his Green Beret and Bible home to his wife for safekeeping, along with a letter reassuring his wife that he was taking every precaution. On April 21st, 1989, Colonel Rowe, 51 and a Green Beret, who survived 5 years as a POW, was gunned down by communist rebels while being driven to work in a chauffeured, armored limousine. The vehicle's air conditioning had broken down earlier, making the inside of the vehicle unbearable in the Philippine heat. The driver had opened the small window vent to allow fresh air to circulate into the car. Several rounds found their way through the open vent, killing Rowe instantly. Nick left behind his wife, Susan, a 2-month-old son, Brian, and a 2-year-old son, Alex. Hundreds of mourners crowded in and around Fort Bragg's JFK Chapel for a memorial service a week after Rowe was killed. Colonel Rowe is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. He was a Special Forces soldier, a POW, a hero, a teacher, and a friend to many. He knew the true meaning of freedom. His accomplishments will live on to honor him. Inscribed on his gravestone are the words from a poem he wrote while a POW. So look up ahead at times to come. Despair is not for us. We have a world and more to see, while this remains behind. The city of McAllen renamed 2nd Street as Colonel Rowe Boulevard after his death. James Nikki Rowe High School was named in his honor in 1990. Both sons, Alex and Brian, had visited Nikki Rowe High School when they each reached the age of 18. In a special ceremony held in April, we remember the men in McAllen who lost their lives in Vietnam. We honor the 12 men from McAllen who did not come home alive. 9 bodies were brought home, and 3 were classified as MIA, missing in action. We will also remember and honor 2 of our Rowe High School graduates who lost their lives in Iraq.